conversation today is with Kaeyla. She's a woman who chose to birth her first child free of the medical system in a hotel. Unfortunately, Kaeyla's mothering journey began not through a pregnancy, but at a very young age as a result of the sexual assault she experienced as a child. In this conversation, Kaeyla shares how she began coming into the healing of her past traumas and made the space to bring this child forth. She speaks about seeking community and the structure of revillaging and how it's needed. How traveling in her early 30s brought healing and the integrations of decolonization into her life. Finding out she was pregnant and immediately knowing that going to the doctor wasn't something that she wanted to do. Having the awareness that her medicinal cannabis usage would be red flagged if she entered into the medical system, so that brought confirmation as to her choice to birth free of the system. Seeking community and having to find it online. Going through the experience of thinking that her pregnancy released. Choosing to birth in a hotel instead of her fifth wheel trailer, knowing that the experience of birth she was about to go through needed more physical space. Intuitively asking her partner to pleasure her during her birthing experience, birthing her baby in the hotel bathtub and rushing to get her placenta out, having a bit of difficulty with her breastfeeding journey, and then going back to her fifth wheel trailer as a new woman and mother. This is such an incredible story that Kaeyla shares about her stepping into her truth and power, having full trust in herself and her body, and being so lovingly supported by her partner to claim her voice and guide her baby into this world. I also want to mention, if you're seeking information and guidance on cannabis usage during pregnancy, there are some resources within the show notes below. Women, have you heard? The Free Birthing in Color movement now has a private community space for all women to join. Within this private community, we have monthly village prenatals to celebrate and support the pregnant women moving towards their birthing time. There are monthly community calls to build deeper connection with one another. We have bi-monthly book clubs to gain deeper wisdom of our female bodies. There are guest speakers that will facilitate talks on all things women's health. We have space for mothers to share their in-power birth stories and so much more. You can join this community space for only $6 per month from now until December 21st of this year. I know that you've been seeking connection, support, guidance, knowledge, and newfound friendships. So now is the time to join us and find exactly what you're looking for. Even if you don't identify as a woman of color or an Indigenous woman, you're welcome to be here because we all need to be witnessed in the passages of life that we move through, no matter who we are or what we look like. This community will hold you whether you're pregnant or not pregnant, trying to conceive, don't want children at all, if you've had losses or abortions, if you're a birth or death worker of any kind, a grandmother, an auntie, or wise woman, there's space for you to be seen and share your wisdom to the collective well. Go to primalwomenportal.com/FBC community or check the show notes to become a member today. Hello, Kaeyla. Welcome to the Free Birthing in Color movement. I am very excited to have you here. I'm so excited to hear your story and just have you share in this space today.
Great. Thank you for having me, Karma. It's a very extreme pleasure of mine to be here, and you are holding space for me
Mm.
and the previous woman. It is a beautiful creation,
Mm.
and I wish you the abundance and power back to us.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Yes, I feel that energy. And just going right into it because, yeah, I love that power back to us, power back to us as women of color. So, what is your ancestry and lineage that you are passing down to your children?
My first daughter, I am passing down Panamanian roots.
Mm.
Currently here in Panama with my mother and her family.
Yeah.
And from my father's side, he has German, mostly native, not native, New York born.
Mm.
And they are stemming from German and Irish and Her father has a little bit of the same, as well as Polish.
Mm.
So a little bit of a mixture of that I'm passing down.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for
Hmm.
sharing.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah, it's beautiful that you know this. It's beautiful that you're living in Panama. You're very close to me. We're actually neighboring countries right now, so that's really
Oh,
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm just in Costa Rica, right at the down in the south, right at the Panamanian border. So I'm
Oh, wow.
near,
Okay.
yeah, I'm in Puerto
We're
Viejo.
neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just right there. So that's pretty cool. So it's nice having this conversation knowing that, oh, you're just right down there.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, I love these types of stories, these women birthing free of the medical system for their first babies, because it's just like,
Hmm.
yeah, so powerful. Just taking back what is hers already on the first go, not even
Hmm.
messing, with the medical system. So I'm so
Yes.
excited to hear this story. So I would
Hmm.
love to ask you, where is it that your motherhood journey begins?
So, unfortunately, my mothering began probably around 9 years old. I was I was sexually assaulted or molested by my father.
Mm,
So having to go through that at such a young age and not being heard and having a little brother, I began to take note of what my mother was doing.
mm,
And clearly my father made me a woman in the sense of, he was inappropriately touching me. I was
mhm,
doing things to comfort him that a wife would normally do. And so I've kept that secret for a very long time.
mhm,
And then so I've had to figure out how to parent myself and how to return the nurturing. And I probably didn't do the best. Um, I've struggled with that, and I've struggled along the way with having a very close and nurturing relationship with my mother. So, and then, growing up into my teens, I was like, hey, I'm gonna cook meals and I'm gonna help out. My parents worked the 9 to 5.
mhm,
And so there was time once we got off the school bus, once we were done with the babysitters, that I wanted to take charge, that I wanted to be in our home. I wanted to help with dinner. I wanted to help
mhm,
with my brother,
mhm.
and be there after school and be in our home and do all the things that my mother didn't have time to do.
Right.
So I started at a very young age, and then, that passed along throughout um, my preteen and my teenager years, and as a young adult, into my friends and the men that I was with.
Mhm,
A lot of them felt very nurtured and listened to, and so I held a lot of mothering characteristics. And I have always wanted to be a mother, and I didn't know if that was ever a an option for me because I had problems. I had PCOS.
mhm.
So, and I had struggled and never became pregnant with any of my partners.
Okay.
And so I just assumed at such a late age that it just wasn't in my option. So that's where it began. And then,
Wow.
eventually, I'm 2 years in. So here we are. It
Wow.
happened. I
Yeah.
bloomed late, but uh, I never saw it coming. I
Okay.
never saw it coming.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that and,
Yeah, thank
really
you.
sharing that heart opening of stepping into that mothering at such a young age due to something that is so tragic as a sexual
Mhm.
assault, especially from a family member. From anyone is
Mhm.
tragic, but yeah,
Mhm.
having that from a family member as well is just extra like, oh, heart-wrenching and, being
Mhm.
forced to step into this way, as you're saying, of
Mhm.
wow, that's big. That's big energy for such a young
Yeah.
person to have to take
Mhm.
on. And,
It
you're not
was.
you're
Yeah.
not ready for that at 9 years old. You're still meant to be
Mm-mm.
a child. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a big reason I think why I blossomed my way
Hmm.
and I chose the path that I did is because
Hmm.
I wanted to reclaim that power back to me, back
Mm.
to back to my body parts and my sovereignty and my body autonomy. I wanted to prove to myself that I understood my intuition. That
Yeah.
was, you know, no one really validated that. So
Hmm.
I had to show myself that first.
Yeah.
And I think this pregnancy or that pregnancy showed me that by listening to myself and tending to myself and
Hmm.
doing what's best for me, is in my greater power. And not only did it affect me, it affected everyone around me.
Right.
It shook everyone up. Like, wow, this can happen.
Hmm.
This is normal. This is the sacredness of life. And
Hmm.
I wanted people to understand how precious that is,
Hmm.
especially when you give birth, your children, how precious that can be. So yeah,
Wow. So
very young age.
yeah, absolutely. And then coming from such a young age into your maturation, you're saying how
Hmm.
you made these different choices as you were getting older. So were there specific things that, you were doing, as you're saying, to claim your power back and to claim your body back that really landed for you as like, yes, this is me, in this healing journey of yours?
I wouldn't say I basically I ended up being a workaholic. I
Mm,
would always hold 2 to 3 jobs.
mm,
I worked a lot and I thought that was the thing to do was to take care of myself financially and
okay.
completely
Mm,
and to not rely on anyone. So I learned that, but then I learned that it was not helpful to me. Um, I I transitioned into learning that, community is what I needed. The village is what I wanted brought back. And it wasn't until in my young 30s, or maybe like 32, I had started traveling and I would have a dream and I ended up fulfilling that dream.
mm,
And so I think that kind of, helped me heal
mm,
and um, really brought the whole decolonizing path that I wanted to take with
yeah.
my life um, further. And it was really hard
Mhm,
to accept, what I've done in my past and some of the things that I would deem very colonized, but I really think that was the time out west. I was living out in Nevada,
mm,
and I learned a lot about my privileges coming from upstate New York.
mm,
I learned about even up there how privileged I had it, and realizing that we as brown and black people are really not safe, even as far as we're into this world.
mm,
2024, we're dealing with some deep dark stuff,
mhm,
and a lot of us empaths and light forces really have to and have had to stay strong
mhm,
in that light. And so I think that that's what really did it for me was, you
mhm.
know, realizing we need to return to ourselves, we need to return to Mother Nature,
Yes.
and we need to plant our feet in the ground a lot more. So
Mhm.
that's really what did it.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, okay. And yeah, that's such a journey such a journey as well. And like you said, traveling, it really opens your eyes up to seeing when you, yeah,
Hmm.
experience different ways of people, different ways of being, different ways of living.
Hmm.
Yeah, it puts everything into really big perspective, which can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. And yeah, so. I
Mhm.
definitely know the joys of travel and the hardships of travel as
Yes,
well.
yes,
Oh, goodness me. Wow. Um, so then would you like to get into where or when it was, what stage of your journey you were in when you were possibly um thinking of bringing your baby in, or was it, did you say that it was more of a surprise and it was like, oh, that's right, because you said you thought you couldn't
yeah.
get pregnant, so it was that surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So like, where were you in your life at that time and at that moment, and then coming into that, like, oh my goodness, now I'm pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So me and my partner, we had gotten a fifth wheel, a
Mm,
24-foot fifth wheel,
mm,
and we had got it after the pandemic. You know, we had got it at the end of 2020
mhm,
after we couldn't afford our rent.
mm,
We were living in Nevada. Um, and our rent for one bedroom, I think, was like $1,300. And we were just like, there's just no
mm,
way, like, we
mm,
don't even own this.
yeah.
And it just wasn't working out. My partner was a very outdoorsy person, and having him, in an apartment was just not working out.
Mhm,
So we decided to do the whole fifth wheel thing. And he had a job that would allow travel,
okay.
and so we made it work.
Mm,
And I think we were in the fifth wheel for about a year before I discovered that I missed my period.
okay.
And I was in southern Nevada
Mhm,
at the time, and I wasn't planning it. I know my partner, he talked about it,
mm,
and he obviously was, talking me up about,
mhm,
getting me pregnant type of thing.
mm,
So, and I'm like, yes, that's not gonna happen. Like,
mm,
so, at around 33 years old, I discovered, by a pregnancy test that I was pregnant.
mm,
And then immediately after taking that test, I decided that I'm not going to no doctor. I don't need to go to no doctor. This isn't
mm,
a medical emergency.
mm,
And I had my partner as well there, and he agreed.
yeah.
um, because I think he was familiar with it, back home. He was homeschooled, so he had a
Okay.
little different upbringing
Okay, yeah.
and was surrounded by, a little bit um, more out of the system type people.
Mhm.
So it wasn't too foreign for him.
Okay.
And so that immediately was our decision. But at the same time, we were scared
Mm.
about everyone else.
Okay, yeah.
um, our parents would say, what our friends and other family members would say, and
Mhm.
who would be down to support us. And so we kind of kept it hush hush for a little bit. And
Mhm.
then I felt like I want to tell people, like, I'm excited. This is my first time having a
Mhm.
child.
Mhm.
And I think I had dreamt um, of a blonde hair girl,
Mhm.
while I was in a previous relationship,
Okay.
but I I was like, that can't be. Like, I'm with someone totally different. Like, I can't have a blonde hair, blue eyed girl.
Mhm.
Like, that's was not in my vision of on my plans. But
Mhm.
um, and I was like, okay, well, I can do this. Like, I'm gonna do this.
Mhm.
And I think also part of that reason I chose that route also was I was a cannabis smoker and
Okay.
user. So
Mm.
that was really important to me, was
Yeah.
that I knew the plant was medicine,
Mhm.
and I'm not ashamed of it. But,
Mhm.
Black and brown people have a bad history
Yeah.
medically.
Mhm.
And so I was a little apprehensive as well about that.
Yeah.
So that was my main reason as to going
Mm.
into this free birth.
Mhm.
And I didn't really know the term going into it. I just was like, I'm not doing anything medical. Like, this doesn't seem natural to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was my main objective, was
Yeah.
to have a free birth, a natural
Hmm.
birth,
Yeah.
without any intervention.
Yeah. I love that, that it was just right away, even though the pregnancy was a surprise, it was just that, off the bat, you and your partner were just like, hey, we're doing it this way.
Hmm.
And yeah, it makes so much sense if you were using cannabis as this holistic medicine for yourself, for
Hmm.
women like yourself, like myself. If we went into the medical system, a medical midwife with an OB, and even mentioned that word, we would be red
Hmm.
flagged right away.
Yes.
Negligent
Hmm.
mother, probably a drug addict. CPS
Hmm.
needs to be called to make sure that this pregnancy is going to be safe. You would never be able to make any decisions by yourself anymore.
Hmm.
It would just be total and complete unnecessary chaos, which, so I'm totally like, yeah, that's beautiful. You already
Hmm.
pre could see what a future would be like if you were in the medical system, and it's like it's not even
Hmm.
worth it when you can just
No.
do it yourself and use this plant medicine to your benefit and not have to try and hide it or stress about it or feel, some sort of way like if they find out this is going to happen. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, after discovering that, I didn't really know where to look.
Mm,
I didn't have any community.
mm,
Um, and I didn't really know anybody specifically how to do this or anything. And my
mm.
mother definitely did not have any guidance or support.
Okay.
Um, so that was kind of a little disheartening at the time.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really agree with me.
Okay.
So and So then I continued on my way to try and find community, and we were traveling at the time, so I didn't really have anywhere stable
Mm,
to establish anything. So that was really frustrating, and it really kind of drove me into a little bit of a depression
mm.
at the time as well. And so my main source was online, Instagram, and
Okay.
I found a lot of people, but I struggled because a lot of the free birthers were not colored, not
Mm,
there wasn't anyone that looked like me
mm,
and felt the way I felt. Sure, there was a lot of white women using cannabis and but I didn't resonate and I didn't really feel like it was something that I could have the deep support by. Not saying that they weren't supportive. There was definitely a few women um, that were supportive and,
mm,
guided me about some questions I had. And
mm.
that was extremely, I'm very grateful for that because I didn't have anybody
Right.
and I couldn't find anyone near me
Mm,
or that used cannabis
mm,
safely to empower me. And that's what
mm.
I was looking for, was to really be empowered.
Yep.
And I really struggled with that. And thankfully, I had
Mm,
Instagram, and I had, my phone to be able to do that. So I really
mm,
recognized, where I did have support. It really
mm,
meant a lot because I
mm,
know a lot of people don't, or don't even have a clue as to how to find that support.
mm,
So I can only say that I did my best as as
mm.
my life unfolded throughout my pregnancy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all you can do. Like you said, you were
Hmm.
in a fifth wheel, so you're traveling everywhere. So
Yeah.
if you're going to meet people, it's only going to be for a certain amount of time. It's not as though you can
Hmm.
get really integrated into their lives and, ask them, can you
Hmm.
support and do this for me? And I'll do this for you, because then they're going to be gone. So sometimes, yes, it's not ideal, but it is also really great to have online spaces and to meet women and have that support, like you were saying that you were needing and wanting in that journey. So
Yes.
you do the best you can with what it is that you actually have in the time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's where That's where I feel very grateful
Hmm.
that, even throughout postpartum, it's been a blessing to have
Hmm.
the online support and
Hmm.
to just see people and to really know that you feel included and
Yeah.
that someone can hold space for you.
Yeah.
So that was really precious to me.
Hmm. Yeah, I bet. And just while you were moving through this pregnancy and also, moving around, were you doing anything because this was a complete pregnancy that you weren't, seeking assistance from the medical system? So were there things that you were actually thinking about, oh, I should check this, maybe blood pressure, or like, oh, I have to keep on top of this? Or were you just kind of listening to your intuition? And if you felt there was something that felt kind of off or amiss in your body, then you would kind of remedy what was going on?
Mhm. So I had a brief moment during the very beginning, I think about 4 months in, I had thought I had miscarried and I
Mm,
thought I wasn't pregnant.
okay.
And I really struggled trying to find the right information. And it
Mm-hmm.
just kept Google.
Mm.
Google is like my best friend that I hate and love at the same time. Um, it just kept telling me that I miscarried. And, I really believed for a month that I had miscarried.
Okay.
And so did my partner. And
Mm,
then we tried at the end. Um, we had stationed ourselves in the middle of Nevada. It was 3 to 4 hours away from anything.
yeah.
There was no Walmart, no Lowe's, no Costco, no fast food, no major gas station. It was literally in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Um, so I was really struggling, and I said, okay, we need to make a trip somewhere. I need to talk to someone. And so I had went up north to a holistic center, and I don't really know if they really dealt with anything that I was dealing with at the time. But there was a woman, and she said that she, just talk with me, and it was up in Tahoe.
Mm,
And, we drove the 4 hours up there
mm,
and I had gotten some advice. But I felt like everyone wanted, because I was out of the medical system, no one wanted to touch me. No
mm,
one really wanted to engage with me.
yeah.
And I was basically like untouchable. Like, I just want to talk and chat. And I have these questions, like,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like, I can't help you, girl. Like, I can't help you, sis. Like,
Right.
here's some herbs. This is what you could do. And, you got Google, but like, you're doing great. Good luck to you.
Right.
So
Oh,
that was really kind of crappy.
yeah.
Um, and I didn't know where I to fit in because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, gosh, like, we gotta do better than this. Like,
Totally.
so that was, yeah, I went up there, and then also my cousin, I had reached out to Facebook at the time, and I had put it out there like, I think I miscarried. And then my cousin had reached out to me and started talking to me. She's like, I
Mm,
think you're pregnant still. I think
okay.
I think you are still pregnant.
Mm,
And that's all I needed.
right.
It shook me up. I started thinking differently. I started feeling different. Um,
And what were the
and
signs that you had that made you think that you had miscarried?
Gosh, I wish I could remember most of all my stuff, all my notes, all my journaling is back in the
Mm,
rig in Nevada.
okay.
So I think I may have had some bleeding,
Okay, yeah.
and the way it was and the way I was feeling, I could not, like, I can't just put everything into Google and just tell me what it is. It's like I
Yeah.
have to dissect myself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like figure it out how to
Mm-hmm.
do it in a search engine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think I had reached out to someone that was in Canada
Okay.
because it was the only thing that I could find that would be appropriate. for the way I was doing things. But
Okay.
she was dealing birth work for the gender diverse community. And so she was like, well, I kind of, put my energy and time into that community.
Mm,
But, she did give me some time and she definitely gave me her direct line
yeah.
to, chit chat and to chime in how I was feeling at the time. Um, but no one was really helping me to understand how I was feeling and why I was feeling the
Mm,
way I was.
right.
So, and it wasn't until I just, talked to my cousin who I think had already had two kids.
Okay. Yeah.
So she she helped me reclaim my power within my
Mm,
pregnancy back,
mm,
and I it changed everything. And I'm not really sure the symptoms. I definitely think it was just like some bleeding
hmm.
and how I was feeling.
Yeah.
But then, looking back, that was kind of normal. And I think, as I was reading on,
Hmm.
um, I remember not wanting to read too much into it. I
Yeah.
remember not wanting to like read a book about pregnancy
Yeah.
and how that's done
Hmm.
and what you do at each step and what to look for. Like
Yeah.
I was trying to be hands off and just
Hmm.
listen to myself.
Hmm.
That was my main goal.
Hmm.
But, there was still questions and I
Absolutely.
still struggled with my confidence in holding this pregnancy.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I definitely grateful for the moves that I did make, but
Hmm.
I was really hoping for a little bit more
Yeah.
nurturing and just wide open arms because I wasn't going into
Hmm.
the system, but I didn't get
Totally.
that from the people that I connected with fully.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's so
but
heartbreaking to
yeah.
hear because yeah, like especially going through an experience like that where there's blood, you're feeling some sort of way and you are outside of the medical system. Like normally if that happens and somebody's just, on the conveyor belt of the OB or the conveyor belt of the medical midwife, they call that
Hmm.
person, they go to the hospital, they do all the things, tell them how they're feeling, tell them if they're okay, if they're not okay, and then it's done. But like
Hmm.
taking your power into your own hands in this experience, especially for the first time being pregnant, being quite isolated and trying to seek connection with other women and not really getting what you're needing because this is what, your body, your heart, your womb is asking for, that would be really, yeah, really tough situation to have to navigate. And
Hmm.
like it gets in the head and then trying to use Google, which is just, oh, it's just so awful. Oh, I really feel for you in that experience, how
Yeah.
um but you did still continue to like persevere and still trust
Hmm.
yourself and still trust you could have gone to the hospital if that was the right choice for you and got an
Hmm.
ultrasound or did whatever A, B, and C, talk to the doctors, blah blah blah, but it
Hmm.
also goes to show that you, like you said, wanted to bring that power back into yourself. And this was a way to do that as well, was
Hmm.
seeking what you needed from others and then making these moves in yourself and seeing how it settles and feels in your body. So
Hmm.
yeah, like doing all of this, being pregnant outside of the system is it's a big task and it's not for the faint of heart,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yeah,
So
I felt like I was trying to just I felt like looking back at it, I was just trying to validate what I already knew.
right.
And, I struggled with validation and understanding that. And I just, I'm just so glad that I took the path that I did because it was definitely not easy. It was definitely a lot of crying and a lot of frustration and a lot of rage. I felt a lot of rage because I just couldn't believe how silly it is, how silly it all is that you can just open a book and it can just some guy can just tell you how pregnancy goes and what
Hmm.
to expect and what you should do. but it doesn't tell you like how to nurture yourself. You know,
Yeah.
like how did women before handle this
Mm-hmm.
and why these systems were created. You know, none of that was really explained or informed.
Yeah.
You know, everyone just assumes that you just go to a doctor and you go to a hospital.
Yeah.
And I was just really enraged. And then I saw, so when I did look up information on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was information out there
Mm-hmm.
and communities out there, but it was the woman in the comments that really shook me up as to the horrors
Okay.
and the traumatization that really does take place
Mm-hmm.
and how voiceless you become. And
Mm.
I refused to become voiceless. And I did not want that for me.
Yeah.
And I really, really stuck with it because I used to be a voiceless person.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I was just not going to pass that down.
Yeah.
And I really am grateful for women really, you know, sharing themselves and sharing their vulnerability online because I mean, it could save so many women. It saved me. So
Yeah.
it's the power of our voices that really
Mm-hmm.
matter. And it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people will shame you for being online and for putting stuff online, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so powerful and
Yeah.
you know, I'm not ashamed and I hope no one else is ashamed of how vulnerable us women are online because
Yeah.
it's a superpower
Absolutely.
and it's a beautiful thing to
Mm-hmm.
keep on with. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're sharing your story medicine, which just as you're
Hmm.
saying, your words are healing. Your words are entering into the hearts, the souls, the wombs of other women and
Hmm.
changing something within them, even if they don't quite understand or agree or know at that very
Hmm.
moment. It's like that potency within that story medicine is just so,
Yes.
so big. So yeah, our voices are important to be heard and to be shared and to be said. So I love that you say you didn't want to be voiceless and you didn't want to pass that down to your child because that's just so
Hmm.
powerful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Mm.
So yeah, it's been pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I, you know, as I progressed on,
Mm-hmm.
I started to peel back the searching and the
Mm.
questioning of myself, and I really started to um, you know, nurture more myself and be present. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was probably the best thing I could do at the time. Going forward from learning that I indeed was still pregnant
Yep.
and you know my belly started to show
Mm.
and I was very happy, but you know, I still suffered with the whole nausea thing, and that's where cannabis came into play. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I lost some weight because I wasn't eating
Mm.
as much. Um, and there was like certain foods that I definitely like. Anything with high fructose corn syrup, I
Mm.
immediately threw up. Anything with
Mm.
ground beef, I immediately threw up. So those are the
Mm.
two things. And I looked into it and it realized that my body is just like, yeah, this, whatever is in this food, it's just not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I really started to just listening to myself and listening to what my body needed.
Yeah.
And my body knew. My body wanted fresh fruits. It
Mm.
wanted mushrooms. It
Mm.
wanted, you know, earthy type stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, those were the things that my body needed, those minerals, those vitamins.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing that a book would tell me how it's supposed to go. Um, so yeah, I definitely continue to listen to my body. And I also felt like I did not want to give birth in the desert. There's like no trees here. And I'm from upstate New York where there's lots of trees, there's lots of greenery. Um, in the middle of the desert, I just I just could not do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had asked my partner if there's any way that, I could birth somewhere else.
Yeah.
And he decided to make some things happen. And we had some family assistance to help us take our rig up north.
Okay.
And I still didn't know where and how I was going to give birth. Obviously, I wanted to stay close to my home.
Mm.
Um, and, but I didn't feel like I have enough space.
Okay.
So that was kind of my number one concern. I didn't have enough space. I knew I was going to need space and water.
Mm.
So we went up to the Pacific Northwest up in Washington.
Mm.
And that's a month later. We had arrived in April of 2022. And then it was in a month later, I was going into labor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, so things progressed pretty quickly once we got there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had found out my grandfather was still up there from my father's side.
Mm.
But we never made contact. Um, and so, I at least had a family member, nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really sure why I chose Washington. I mean, obviously it has trees and water.
Yeah.
So that definitely was a huge abundance coming from Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of trees and water. So I
Yeah.
I knew that this was going to be it. Like
Well,
this is meant for my daughter, our
yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I I think I was in like maybe 30 hours of labor.
Okay.
I had difficulty understanding preterm labor.
Okay.
I had difficulty understanding what I was feeling.
Mm.
And then, there I go again, struggling with my confidence and my
Okay.
intuition and needing validation.
Right.
So when I decided it was time, I was like, yeah, I have a small bathtub in here, but this isn't it. This is not gonna be it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was like, you need to do something to my partner. Like, you gotta do something, dude. Like, you gotta get me somewheres. And, I struggled with trying to find a doula, and
Okay.
we did not have a lot of money at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
So financially, it was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
My partner was not working at the time. Um, but then he did get a job as soon as we got up to Washington. So
Okay.
struggling to find um, community, everyone wanted money.
Right.
So
Okay.
I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this still doesn't feel right. I I get it, but like nothing felt right to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's asking for money, for time and for just to answer some questions or to take a course. I'm like, this is all natural. Like, shouldn't this
Mm-hmm.
just be passed down to us for free? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there goes my rage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mad that no one wanted to show up. Nobody wanted to show up for me
Yeah.
um, while I was preparing to give birth. So that was a thing.
Yeah.
But luckily I had my partner. I had my partner who believed in me, believed in us, that we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that really empowered me to, keep it going, to say that I know I need people and that they're gonna hear my
Mm-hmm.
story when it comes down to it
Yeah.
because the village and community was needed
Mm-hmm.
and it's needed for mothers,
Yeah.
mothers all across the spectrum.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I I decided that I was like, okay, there's like a hotel like 5 minutes away. Let's just do it there. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. Like
Mm-hmm.
how bad can it be? Um, Um, So I was in the bathtub for about 12 hours.
Mm.
I I was in the bathtub for a good 12 solid hours. I was so
Wow.
uncomfortable. I could not lay down in the bed. I could not
Mm.
sit down. But I felt the most comfortable in the bathtub with the
Mm.
water.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I decided, okay, well, I could really use some encouragement here because this is beginning to uh this is beginning to speed up here. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I got mosquitoes here too.
Yeah.
So
They're
stand.
coming out now. Yeah.
They are. I got mosquitoes and toads coming out. Like, oh gosh. Um, so I'm in the hotel, and this is not no fancy hotel, so it's kind of like, oh gosh, like I really could have, like, you could have invested in a little bit more classier place, but I was like, whatever. It has a bathtub. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Um, so then I decided, okay, well, it looks like things are speeding up, and my partner was like, you need to make some noise.
Oh, yeah.
Coming from a voiceless person
Mm.
and feeling, a bit ashamed and outed for
Mm-hmm.
going down the path that I was doing, I still struggled with being loud.
Mm.
And my partner said, you need to make your primal sounds. You need
Mm.
to make your primal sounds. You need to
Yeah.
do something to get this baby out. Your baby needs to hear you.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was so hard for me because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I was giving birth in a hotel. I was ashamed that I had nobody. I was
Mm.
worried that people were gonna, hear me
Mm.
and, please, or we're gonna get kicked out.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I was really hesitant. But until I started making my primal sounds,
Mm-hmm.
that's when she was coming down. She was
Mm-hmm.
coming down this beautiful canal,
Yeah.
and um, everything was going just fine. I didn't
Mm.
feel anything. I didn't feel any like pain. It was just extreme pressure and very
Mm.
uncomfortable.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I remember going from the tub to the toilet so many times.
Mm.
And I read about afterwards, I read about, that was the toilet station, I think that they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was just things were widening up,
Yeah.
things were ready to go. And, naturally I haven't eaten. Um, so and in my head, I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, but I'm
Mm.
kind of really going through a lot right now.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I was like, gosh, thinking of what I was gonna eat afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and then to myself, I'm like, gosh, why am I thinking about this? Um, so, as things are speeding up, we're both in the tub, and I'm just like, and I kept having him check me, like, I need you to check me. Like, I'm pregnant. It's hard for me to, reach up in there. So, he was checking on me. He was, um, I think that, giving me fluids as I needed.
Mm.
And, and then I was like, I felt the need when things was really getting really intense that I was like, I need you to pleasure me. I know this might sound weird, but I need you to pleasure me.
Mm.
And so I guided him. And, ever since he started pleasuring me,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the baby was coming out. I was
Mm.
like, I don't know where that came from. Like, I never
Yeah.
really came across that. Like, I knew there was like orgasmic birth, but like I
Yeah.
never read into it. I just kind
Mm-hmm.
of was like, okay, that's a thing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like I just kind of like
Yeah.
bypassed it. And having to experience that on my own intuitively, like
Yeah,
I was like, wow, like this is really powerful.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like how did I know to do this? And
Mm,
I don't know what made me decide to
mm-hmm,
do that.
mm-hmm.
But that to me was very pivotal because
Yep.
baby girl arrived very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously some pain and things were stretching, but
Yeah.
overall, like I felt pretty strong,
Yeah.
and I ended up calling upon my ancestors to
Mm,
really be there for me.
yeah.
And um I thank God to them and thank the goddess that she was there with me because I I was reborn very very lovingly. Like me and my
Mm,
partner were doing it together, and
yeah.
I reclaimed that power back when she arrived her side. So
Mm,
she was beautiful, she was healthy, she was, this big, she felt big to me. I'm just like,
yeah.
wow, like I did it,
Yeah.
she has her cord attached to her just fine, and
Mm.
her father caught her,
Oh, beautiful.
and he gave her to me immediately, and we both exclaimed that, oh, she's a girl.
Oh.
And it was funny because I think the day that I found out I was pregnant by the pregnancy test,
Mm-hmm.
I had written down her complete name
Oh.
and had put it up on our stove.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, this is gonna be her,
Mm.
and it's a girl, and
Mm.
this is her name.
Oh.
And it came true. So like I was just
Mm.
like amazed that like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I called it. Like
Yes.
and
Oh.
he was my partner was like in complete disbelief, like you did it. You called
Mm.
it out. You
Wow.
stuck with your complete intuition throughout all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened. And I I was very happy. We were very happy,
Mm-hmm.
and we welcomed her together.
Mm.
And then I think probably the downside about um, everything during that time was my partner started to get very anxious about the afterbirth, about the placenta coming out, and
Okay. Yeah.
then that then that came back. That came back to me, and
Mm.
I started getting anxious and worried, and things started getting a little bit hectic,
Okay.
and pushing. Then I was like, I think he was trying to tell me that I need to push the placenta out, but I don't recall having. I don't remember. It just felt like very rushed,
Right.
and
Right.
to me, that felt like going against what I felt.
Mm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily speak up. And I think, at that point in time, I was like, okay, I should have spoken up because I didn't feel like I had to get the placenta out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I could have had some time, or if it was just I assumed it was just gonna let me know, like, it'll come out.
Yeah.
So that was probably the only downside about that moment was,
Okay.
having to like really push out the placenta.
Right.
And it may have, and I didn't feel well after that. Like I didn't feel well down there
Yeah.
after ordeal.
Okay. Yeah.
So
How long after
yeah.
then would you say that your placenta, you did push it out? Was it like within the
Yeah,
hour
I
then?
think no, it was like within maybe 10 minutes
Oh,
of
wow.
giving birth.
Okay. Oh, so it was
Yeah.
that quick. Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I felt
Mm.
like it was really rushed
Mm.
and
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Yeah. Okay.
So that kind of, made me a little upset
Mm. Mm-hmm.
at the time.
Yeah.
But, I kept everything intact. I did look up. I knew that I wanted to do something with the placenta. I knew that I did not want it cut. I did not want it severed. So I was looking, like what's my options?
Hmm.
What can I do? Like, I didn't know anything. I had never heard anybody in my life talk about the placenta. So
Hmm.
this was all extremely new to me, and
Yeah.
um I was like, okay. Um, so to me, it made sense to keep everything attached.
Yep.
And so I had came across information via Instagram, um, of a woman that was living in Mexico, but I don't believe she was indigenous to the land.
Okay.
But she said she did a lotus birth, and I was like, wow, like I got lotus flowers tatted on me. Like,
Mm.
does that could that mean something? So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like, and so I kept her placenta close to me. And I think in the very beginning, I had just kept it in like a towel
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
didn't have anything, and
Okay.
I didn't, I didn't come prepared. I did not
Yeah.
think about how what I was gonna hold my placenta in. So, it's just bundled up in some towels, I think, or some clothes.
Hmm.
And then I felt really, really strong,
Yeah.
like strong, maybe not physically strong, but I felt like strong. And I think he took the baby, and I and then he took the baby in the placenta, and then he let me clean myself off. Um and then um And then as I was coming out of the bathtub,
Hmm.
I remember putting my hand on the edge of the bathtub,
Hmm.
and I remember having this vision.
Mm.
I had this vision came over me. It was just so like clear as day. It
Hmm.
was out of nowhere. And I remember like, trying to get up out of the bathtub, obviously my birthing portal.
Hmm.
And I have this vision of I'm gonna give birth again,
Okay.
but it was not to my partner.
Okay.
So I I was really like distraught.
Hmm.
Like I was like, gave birth. Like
Yeah.
how how can I have how can this vision just come so quickly and just so like right there? Like gosh, you
Yeah.
guys, you did no one wanted to give me a chance to just step out and hold my baby and, be in this blissful family moment. I had to have this vision. Like that was that was really like I don't know, it really shook me up to be honest.
Right.
And I just shook it off. Like literally I just shook my head like I don't even know what's going on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Um And so I walked over and nestled my baby on the bed, and we were there overnight. But I remember also not understanding breastfeeding.
Okay. Yeah.
I I knew that was my number one intention,
Hmm.
but I did not understand that you needed larger nipples. I I've always struggled with my breasts because I always felt like I don't really have any nipples. Like I but none of my partners ever mentioned anything. So I was like, I guess this is normal.
Hmm.
Um, but I've always been very self-conscious about my boobs,
Okay.
and I and then I realized I was struggling. I didn't know what I was doing.
Hmm.
I didn't understand how to feed my baby,
Hmm.
and she wasn't latching.
Okay.
And so that led into um, some stress throughout the night and the morning because I was like, how do I feed my baby? Like she's not latching appropriately.
Hmm.
And I was worried um, that I'm not be able to feed her.
Okay.
So yeah, we stayed there overnight and we all slept in the same bed together. Um, and and then the next morning I walked out just fine and hopped in the vehicle and 5 minutes back to my home, back to our rig.
Right.
And um me, baby, placenta, and my partner. So
Hmm.
we all
Wow.
we all came out the birthing portal just fine
Yeah.
and pretty amazed at what we just did.
Absolutely. My
And
goodness.
no one knocked at the door.
Okay. Nice. You weren't disturbed in any
So
way.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah, so
Wow.
it was completely unassisted and undisturbed.
Yeah.
So I really am amazed that women have done this and
Hmm.
it's just wow, like it's really special.
It is really special. And to hear
Mhm.
these pieces of your story, even recognizing the fact in your early birthing time that like being in the confines of the of your fifth wheel was not it, and you needed
Mhm.
a place to go because you needed, as you were saying, you want to be with trees and water, and you needed
Mhm.
to have a bigger tub that you could move around in, and that was the only
Mhm.
place that you actually felt any bit of relief or comfort while you were within this birthing process and going from the toilet back into that one space. So it just goes to show how strong that motherly intuition comes in. And then even saying, when you had said, you just out of nowhere asked your partner to just pleasure you because that's what felt right in the moment. It's like, yeah, that's your mind, your body, your baby saying, okay, we need this oxytocin boost. We need you to feel more relaxed.
Mhm.
We need you to feel more connected, more open so
Yeah.
that this baby can come through. And then, like you said, she did shortly thereafter. It's like,
Mhm.
this is what happens in a birth experience when a mother is fully in charge, when a mother can listen to herself, can listen to her body,
Mhm.
her baby, and do the things that she needs to do, go to where she needs to be for a very easeful birth experience. Yes, it may be, intense. There might be lots of pressure. It might be,
Mhm.
these things, but it's not in a situation where she's being victimized or traumatized or somebody's telling her to lie on her back on the bed, not doing anything. Like you're able to open up to yourself and
Mhm.
open up for your baby. So I just love hearing all of these pieces to your story of how you were really in charge. And it was so beautiful to hear your partner say, like, you need to use your voice as well. Again, that voice coming through and
Yeah.
like, yes, open this. This is your moment. This is your time. Your baby wants to hear you. So she
Mhm.
also knows where to go. That's just,
Mhm.
oh, I just love it. It's so amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm really proud of him that, he really stood by me and stood up for me
Yeah.
to have such a pregnancy and to have such a birth. Um,
Hmm.
it's really very special to me, and I'm very grateful that I had the experience.
Yeah.
It's I wish it for any mother for any partnership um, that they have someone by their side like that because
Yeah.
it makes such a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Having that full devoted support of witnessing you be in your power. Yes, every woman
Hmm.
needs that in their birthing experiences because it just then further solidifies that she can do it. I can do this. I can birth my baby in my power. And this person is going
Hmm.
to be there cheering me on, wanting to see the
Hmm.
best in me. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. One question I
Hmm.
did want to ask you then was
Hmm.
because you said after or within that first few hours of the baby being born, you were struggling with the breastfeeding relationship.
Hmm.
did it remedy itself, or did you seek out somebody to help give you guidance with that? Or how did that experience play out for you in the long run?
Um, I struggled, very, very much so.
Okay.
And I didn't have, not obviously, but at the time I did not have the accessibility to a lactation consultant.
Mm,
Obviously, it costs a couple
yeah.
$100s, and my partner had just started working.
Okay.
Um, and then he obviously, not obviously, gosh. Um, at the time, we were only there for like a month, so having
Okay.
like a good paycheck and a
Yeah.
good flow of income was just, it was just no way.
Mm,
I had the money immediately.
right, right.
So, and then I didn't know where to go, and a lot of, I think a lot of the lactation consultants, needed time,
Mm,
or they um, needed to come there at their office. And I
okay.
was really also, I think, apprehensive
Mm,
as to my living conditions. I live in a small rig, like
yeah.
literally like two people is kind of like max
Yeah.
in that space. And oh gosh, and also and also after I gave birth and I came home, I smoked.
Okay.
So I have that as well. I was worried about, like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know who is going to support me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was pumping. I I was, looking at all the things that, my mother had sent me, and I stumbled across this like shield.
Okay.
And I'm like, I thought it was like so like a nipple for a bottle or something.
Oh,
And I
yeah, the
don't
nipple
think,
shield.
yeah, so
Mm,
I don't even know my mother knew. She just like saw it like TJ
mm-hmm.
Maxx or something, and
Okay.
she just sent it.
Mm,
Um, and so she had told me, as we were looking up, obviously Google, hey Google,
mm-hmm.
um, as ways how I could, help my situation, my nips. Um, and I think also my milk wasn't coming in right away. So, and then I read, babies have small stomachs, they
Mm-hmm.
only need the colostrum, how, extremely important that is
Mm-hmm.
after birth, and, keep skin to skin. And so I was doing all those things, trying to get colostrum. And then I had a neighbor, she had a friend, and she had came over and said, well, you could try a sugar syringe. And I was really kind of not happy with it, because then it's like, oh my God, we're starting my baby off on sugar. She's going to get the taste of, sugar.
Mm,
So I was really worried about that, but I
mm-hmm.
was really desperate.
Right.
And so we were trying to get to do anything to get her to latch properly, and it just wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered that, there's nipple shields that, you just place on your breast, and it just acts like, you know, kind of like the bottle in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
or the nipple of a bottle on your boob.
Yeah.
So, and it, just it pulls the milk out.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I have been using that my entire breastfeeding journey up
Okay.
until like right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I think she's past 24 months, almost 25 months old.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've struggled,
Yeah.
and been using the shield ever since.
Yeah.
Um, and I think at the time, my mother-in-law had offered to pay for a lactation consultant.
Mm-hmm.
But I was I was having some feelings of like, okay, well, I don't want her to just pick anyone.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really because I was have dealt with different people
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't really helping me. I was like, I need to find, the right person. Like the right
Mm-hmm.
person has to help me
Yeah,
out and be
yeah,
that close to me. So I was like, okay, well, not right now. And I also kind of wanted her to be a little bit more involved. Like I just didn't
okay.
want her to just hand me money and me to
Yeah,
figure it out on my own.
right,
Like
right,
that
right.
wasn't really a time um that I needed extra support
Yeah,
and I felt like I didn't want to have to speak up again.
right, okay.
Um so I I was really happy and fortunate she was offering,
Mm-hmm.
but and then it just didn't work out because I
Okay,
believe we ended up by the time I don't think I could find anyone. Or I don't know. I think I was just dealing with a lot of emotions and finding anybody, it just didn't work out. And then we
right.
ended up going back down south to
Right.
to Nevada.
Okay, yeah. Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a journey and I'm glad that you did you were able to get the nipple shield so that you could, start and continue in this breastfeeding journey. So that's something that is nice to have. And for those
Hmm.
women that are listening, the nipple shield is basically, yeah, just a silicone kind of topper that looks very much like a nipple and it just helps the baby latch better and can get like a better grip onto your breasts, but with that shield in the way so that they can like get the milk out if there is difficulty, or like you said, if there's a smaller size of the nipple and it's just harder for the baby to get through, the nipple shield can be really helpful in having that baby kind of learn and understand how they can use their mouth and get their grip to start
Hmm.
suckling for the milk. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's really it's nice that you had it, but it's also really sad to hear that that part of the journey, it was hard to get lactation consultants or have people come
Hmm.
around. And, it is like
Hmm.
everyone's like, we need to be paid for this and you need to give us this much money to come and see you. And it could, sometimes it's just simple questions that you want to ask. And it's hard
Hmm.
when everyone is just like, paywall, paywall, paywall. I'm not going to do this until you pay me.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's mothers, women in general, and just mothers just need more support in our lives completely. Like when we're
Hmm.
bleeding, when we're pregnant, when we're birthing, when we're postpartum, when we're moving into our
Yeah.
crondom, like women just need
Hmm.
more support, more community in all of these times. And it's very
Hmm.
evident that yeah, that is something, throughout your whole journey is what you were saying you did need. But then there are also, like I said, those beautiful moments where you were standing so fully in your power in your birth to make it happen and have this really beautiful, easeful birth experience and listen to your intuition. And yeah, as a first time mother, that was just right off the bat taking control and taking charge of what it is that you wanted. This is a really beautiful story that portrays that in a really beautiful way. That it doesn't have to be complicated or crazy, or you don't have to spend
Hmm.
thousands of dollars paying for all of these courses and, having all these people. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's nice. And it would be nice, if you could have a woman come and just sit in the living room or wherever and just
Hmm.
witness, but it doesn't necessarily need to be there. But it is
Hmm.
also nice to know that that can be an option. But no matter what,
Hmm.
women will birth their babies. We're strong
Hmm.
enough. We are powerful enough. Our bodies just work in this way. We just have to trust it. And when you sink really deeply into that trust, your baby will be born and will come eventually.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Sinking deep into the trust and learning to let go.
Hmm.
That was really big for me. And to just wow, that's definitely spot on because it's definitely true. I've experienced it
Yeah.
and as someone that had to start mothering not only myself, but my whole family. Um, that having to let go and to step in and reclaim yourself, it's such a transformational type of energy,
Yeah.
that only you feel. It's it's very it's very rich. It's very sacred, and I really hope more women can reclaim their power back from the systems, and be empowered and supported, throughout the whole process, because it really makes a difference. And I did it on my own. It wasn't easy. And there's a lot of communities out there that want your money. And birthing is a natural process. And I don't put my money where my mouth is. I use my energy and my love, and that brings an abundance itself. So I know that I was on the right path. I'm on the right path. I I just have to trust myself more, and let go of my fears. That's a real thing. Letting go of those fears is a whole nother high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably a high that I'm not used to and I struggle with, but wow, it's so invigorating. It's so, like, I don't know, there's words out there that I don't know that that could be used to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel ya. I feel ya. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for saying those words. That's just like a beautiful way to end on it. Yeah, it's so potent. And I'm so grateful
Mhm.
that you have come and shared this beautiful story for myself to hear it, and then also for all of the other women that are listening that get to take this medicine that you are giving to us through your words and through your voice. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank
Um,
you as well.
mm. And Kaeyla, just one last question. If any
Hmm.
woman wanted to reach out to you and get in contact and maybe speak a little bit deeper to you in your story, would you be willing to share how they could do that?
Yes, of course. My only account is on Instagram. It's Power and Her Flower. It's power.in.her.flower.
Mm.
And I'm right on there. I'm working things out to be a childbirth educator.
Mm.
Um, I am a death doula.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
and I show it all, and I
Yeah.
hope more women are empowered. And definitely, I am reachable. I'm accessible.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I would love more women and more all genders to be part of the conversation.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's right there, Power in a Flower.
Awesome.
So check me
Awesome.
out.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Kaeyla. Thank you so much, women, for listening to this latest episode of the Free Birthing in Color movement. If you want to continue supporting this movement and all that comes with it, please give a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like the videos on YouTube and share this episode with some of your friends. As reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and the content that I'm creating, it only takes 2 minutes to show your support through a 5-star rating, a small written review, and a share. If you want to give a monetary donation to help with the back end costs of keeping everything that is happening within this movement going, you can send your donations through PayPal via the link in the show notes. And again, as reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and creating, I'm so grateful when those donations come through. I have many other avenues of work that I've created, such as Portals of Wisdom, which are educational guidebooks for women to reclaim and remember their personal bodily sovereignty. I have one-to-one activation sessions and one-to-one or group mentorship opportunities, as well as an amazing course called Cyclical Woman that is a deep dive into the natural cycles of Mother Earth and connecting into your internal rhythms in relation to where Mother Earth is at any given moment. And lastly, I want to mention again the Free Birthing in Color community. It is open for enrollment, so please, if you want to create a deeper sense of connection to myself and other women navigating the same phase of life that you're in, please, please, please come and join us, and let's create something truly beautiful in there. All information can be found within the show notes below, or you can go to primalwomanportal.com and you'll find everything that you need. I'll see you in the next episode.